Today we start, we're on page Yud Aleph, if you have the old print. And we're starting from the middle of the paragraph, Dibra Maskal Ve'inyan, approximately halfway down the column and halfway across the row, about smack in the middle. It says, V'hinei zeh vadai. V'hinei zeh vadai. She'elu ha'shvuos, heimu halochis kvuos b'lishum choylik. These shalosh shvuos are halachas that nobody disagrees with. There's no shita in the Gemara or anywhere that disagrees with them. Sharei Reb Yehuda b'soif ksuva shechidish es halacha she'af yochid oso lalois lomdu mela hashvuos. We learned the Gemara, right? And the Gemara says that Reb Yehuda considered it osur to go to Eretz Yisrael from Bavel because of the shalosh shvuos. Then, Reb Zeira shecholak al Reb Yehuda b'halacha zu, but we know Reb Zeira disagreed with Reb Yehuda in this halacha. So the Gemara asks, what does Reb Zeira hold? Now the Gemara doesn't answer, well, Reb Zeira doesn't hold from the shalosh shvuos. Gemara could have answered that. That was very available to the Gemara. The Gemara could have said, for some reason, Reb Zeira holds they're not halacha l'maisa. We don't hold like them. The Gemara doesn't say that. The Gemara says, no, Reb Zeira has a different pshat in the shvuos. Torchu sham beGemara liyashev ulafarish hashvuos gam ali bei. Then the Gemara says, how does Reb Zeira explain the shvuos if he doesn't hold like Reb Yehuda? So he has to say it's talking only on the Rabbim, not on the Yochid. But for sure, it's clear from the Gemara that there's no chaylik on the Shvuos. Almo, you see from there, it's clear that nobody disagrees, and it's not even possible to say that anybody disagrees with the Shvuos, because if there would be, then the Gemara wouldn't be asking back and forth, what does Reb Yehuda hold, what does Reb Zeira hold, how does this one explain the Shvuos, how does that one explain the Shvuos? Ela kuli alma moidi, everybody agrees. Behu to hilchas harabsin inhu, that there are klor halachas, boinish chamu marach monolitzlan. The Gemara says that Reb Yehuda learns out from a pasuk. He learns out from a pasuk that you're not allowed to go from Bavel to Eretz Yisrael. What is that if not halacha? Then the Gemara says, what about Reb Zeira? Besides that, it asked Reb Yehuda to go. What about Reb Zeira? Right? Well, Reb Zeira holds that Yochid is allowed to go, but the whole thing, klor, that these are halachas. But the Satmar Rebbe here is addressing a different thing. He's addressing the shaila as to whether anybody disagrees with them. That the halach is nothing to discuss. And you should know, the Mizrachistim used to know this. People got worse and worse. Rabbi Reinus of the Mizrachi, when he said that they're going to make colonies and people should move to Eretz Yisrael, he says, you got to be careful. Don't do it in a way that you're going to be over on the shalosh shvuos. And even the Mizrachistim believed that you have to watch out for the shalosh shvuos. Just slowly, things devolved to the point where today people mamish just ignore it. The hilchas arabsin and who boinish chamru mar, and the oinish is frightening. Mashaloi matzinu oinish kosher kazeh b'shum averu shebechol haTorah. So if somebody comes over to you and says, well, the shvuos, they don't matter, nobody cares about them, you should be left out of the Beis Medrash. Ulachein nosati alibi, therefore I took it upon myself, lahalois al gilyo and biyasu yizu b'chol prateho v'chol ha'masasef binyani medina zu. I took it upon myself to discuss the halachas of the shvuos and all the peripherals that have to do with this country, this state, Medina, v'heschabris aleho, and joining it, v'gam l'kichas chelik b'habechiris shelahem, and voting in them. U'mashiyoytze b'chol ze halacha brura l'amita shel Torah. Now you should know that most of Yoel Moshe is not the Satmar Rebbe's own shita. The idea that the shalosh shvuos asa the creation of Israel, Rav Gedolei Yisrael held like that. And I'm not even sure there were even a miyut Gedolei Yisrael that disagreed. Under the circumstances that unfolded, that the Arabs objected, it was not a peaceful assent, there was a war of independence where 6,000 Jews were killed. What Adam Godel said that that's permitted? I wrote in my book, B'Shem Rav Henkin, that the taina that people who matted creating the Medina had was, well, the Goyim violated their shvuah. The third shvuah was that the Goyim should not oppress the Jews Yosem Idai, so if they violated theirs, we're allowed to violate ours. But he says that Rubang, the Gedolei Yisrael, didn't hold like that. We had the Chuvas Rebbe Lezer Gordon way before the Satmar Rebbe wrote Vayol Moshe. way before the Satmar Rebbe wrote Ve'el Moshe. He said that Mizrachist, he said, what do you mean, the whole thing, the Shalosh Shavuos asa the whole thing. The Rebbe Rashab of Lubavitch, in the Orla Yisharim, he said, what do you mean, there's a Shalosh Shavuos, it asas the whole thing. Who in the world mounted such a thing? And when Rav Henkin says that these people said, who's he talking about? He's not talking about Reuven Grozovsky. He's not talking about the Gdolim and the Aguda. We know there was a letter that Yaakov Rosenheim wrote, I quoted in my book, that even the Rabbonim in the Aguda even in those that disagreed with their Baron Kotler that asked the creating of the Medina, and those that disagreed with Rebbe Chonon, only would allow it if it was a peaceful thing, that the Arabs wouldn't object. But if the Arabs object, then they're maskim that it's against the Shalosh Shavuos. What's the shaila? That's not what the Satmar Rebbe is writing a sefer about here. You should know that the Satmar Rebbe didn't really need to write a sefer that the Shalosh Shavuos aser creating a Medina. Who disagreed with that? The Steipler also agreed, we know. The Nekuda that Satmar Rebbe's Shita is Noigeya is voting and being part of the Medina. Is that called a hishtatfus, a accessory to the crime of violating the Shavuos? Or no, like the Steipler says, that even though the creation of the Medina was also because of the Shavuos, but voting doesn't create the Medina. Voting doesn't, right, he says l'chayru, which means he's saying tentatively. He's saying, but voting doesn't decide whether the Medina is there or not. If you would vote for whether the Medina should exist or not, avada, that's one thing. It would be osur. But if you're not voting for that, so Einochanami, what does the Shavuos have to do with voting? Or Legabe, joining the government, there are other Isurim also besides the Shavuos. And L'chol Adeyis, the Satmar Rebbe is the Glata Shita. Reuven writes in Bois Hazman that the Aguda who joined the government is doing Aveira Lishmo. That's his Lashon. Kain Aveira Lishmo. Hoiras Shah. And every moment it has to be reassessed to see, but it's only like Aveira Lishmo. Everybody agrees that the Satmar Rebbe's Deya was the Glata Deya. It's they that need to bring a raya. The onus is on them, and they agree the onus is on them to do what they did. But the Shavuos, L'chol Adeyis, nobody disagrees with the Shavuos. In the next paragraph, so the Rebbe says that he really doesn't have time to masada the sefer properly, and sometimes he was marich when he should have been makatzer, and sometimes he may have been makatzer and he should have been marich, which means, by the way, when you're reading the sefer and you see he has longer arichos in a certain thing, you should not get the idea, and I know some people do, that, must be if he emphasized this more, he spent a lot of time on it, must mean that was more important to him, or something I spent less time, it's less important to him. No, Sefer doesn't work that way. In Chumash it works that way. After the Brias Ha'olam, then after Brias Adam, HaKadosh Baruch Hu focuses on Avram Avinu, and after Avram Avinu only on Klal Yisrael. What the Torah focuses on, that means the Torah gave it more importance. That's not the way it works over here. In general, obviously, that's true. But if he's marich in something or makatzer in something, it doesn't necessarily mean the kavana is to emphasize it or not emphasize it. So in the next paragraph, he says, however, I had to do it, and I hope that people will have a tayelis from what I wrote. If even one person I take out of this confusion, the whole thing is worth it. And it's a story, they say over a story that Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky once told the Rebbe, that the Rebbe was yoitza this person with him. Rabbi Yaakov said, you took me out of the confusion. So he says, you were yoitza with that. And it's very important, however, to write this. Why? Ki im nikach kol ha'pirtzas hador v'haveirus ha'merubois ha'nasos b'chol ha'olam. If you take all the problems in the generation, all the violations and all the terrible averis that are done all over the world, the yasimu oisam bekaf maznayim achas, and you put them on one side of the scale. Umedina hatzionis bekaf maznayim hashnin, you put Israel on the other side of the scale. Tachriyas hakol, Israel's worse than everything else put together. Shu hashoyush peirosh v'lan el avia voice hatumish shebechol ovis hamnezikin shebechol hoilam kuloi vehein hemo hametamim es kol hoilam kuloi. We learned that, first of all, creating a Jewish state is upsetting the cosmic balance of the world. And it causes death of destruction. The purpose of the world, the fulfillment of the purpose of the world depends on the Golus. Breaking that Golus throws a wrench into HaKadosh Baruch Hu's plan for the purpose of the world. It throws a wrench into the purpose of Klal Yisrael, and therefore disrupts the cosmic balance and throws the entire universe into disarray. That's what creating a so-called Jewish state does, and that would be even if it would be from that such that Rav and Abaya made it. The fact that it is the biggest apikorsis factory that existed from the beginning of creation of the world, ad hayom hazeh, just makes it 1,000,000 times worse. And the fact that it's ma'akev the geula just makes it 1,000,000 times worse. And the fact that they're mesisim umedichim and their stated goal is to replace the Torah. And the Zionist state is only a means by which to destroy Klal Yisrael as we know it. To change the Jewish identity from religious to national. All of this together is worse than everything else, all the other Averis, all the other problems in the world put together. And we didn't even talk about the political problems yet that the Rebbe mentions, about how they create anti-Semitism all over the world, and how they're a problem for the Goyim too. What havoc they wreak in this world, politically. Forget about religion for now. We don't even get into that. So therefore, I really had to write this. In the little that I wrote, I brought many reasons for the terrible Isser L'Schabersalim to join them, and going to vote. Even if somebody has tainas on what I say, if after their tainas there's still one reason even left over from the many reasons that I gave that still remain, then the halacha is still like what I'm saying. But the truth of the matter is, I hold everything that I wrote is clear. I didn't write anything on my own. I didn't really write big pilpulim over here, but I just collected things, and every now and then I wrote like a little shtickle Torah, kolshahu, kedarka shel Torah mashesh tayel zlahinin moisa pilpul, just where there's a purpose for it. I didn't really write long arichasin. It's not like the Divrei Yoel. It's not like the Chedushay Sugyas. This is just regular, straight, the likut and explanations, and what comes out, comes out. Okay, so now, this is the end, really, of the part 1 of the Hakdama, where he speaks about the Shvuos.